The moment David Woolley opened his mouth, everyone in that Las Vegas restaurant knew the script had just been thrown out the window. Kody Brown came prepared with his rehearsed apologies and carefully worded platitudes, but what he did not prepare for was Christine's husband cutting straight through the performance with 5 words that changed everything. Start with your kids. That single piece of advice landed like a grenade at the dinner table, and Kody's reaction told viewers everything they needed to know about where his priorities truly lie. This was supposed to be the second stop on Kody's so-called apology tour, a carefully orchestrated series of meetings designed to make amends with his 3 ex-wives following the messy sale of the Coyote Pass property. He had already visited Janelle in North Carolina, where things went surprisingly smoothly. Janelle let him talk, accepted his words with what many viewers perceived as polite indifference, and sent him on his way. Kody probably expected more of the same from Christine. After all, she had moved on completely with David, seemed genuinely happy, and had stated repeatedly that she harbored no lingering feelings for her ex-husband. But David Woolley is not the type of man to sit quietly while someone dances around the real issues. When Kody finished his initial round of apologies to Christine, speaking in vague terms about being sorry for how their breakup went down and regretting the anger he displayed, David saw an opening. He asked if he could offer just a little bit of advice. Kody probably assumed it would be something supportive, maybe even complimentary. Instead, David told him point blank that the ex-wives have already moved on and that his children are the ones still hurting. The temperature in that room shifted instantly. Kody's face transformed from rehearsed contrition to barely contained rage. His response came fast and defensive. He declared that his whole purpose for being there was to apologize to Christine, not to David, not to anybody else. He made it crystal clear that he had set a boundary with his kids and was now extending that same boundary to David and Christine. The message could not have been more obvious. Do not bring up my children because I refuse to discuss them. What made this confrontation so remarkable was watching an outsider finally say what everyone has been thinking for years. David spoke from experience as a father of 8 who admitted he had his own challenges reconnecting with his children. He was not attacking Kody, he was offering genuine insight from someone who understood the work required to rebuild broken relationships. But Kody wanted none of it. He told the cameras afterward that he did not care what David thought, and that even being reminded of his estranged children would bring him back to an angry place. The irony was staggering. Here was a man supposedly on a journey of reconciliation, yet the mere mention of his own children sent him spiraling into defensive fury. And this was only the beginning of what would become one of the most uncomfortable episodes in Sister Wives history. Before David ever spoke up, the cracks in Kody's apology were already showing. From the moment he sat down across from Christine and her husband, something felt off about the entire performance. Kody came armed with a list of things he wanted to apologize for, but the way he delivered those apologies left Christine visibly uncomfortable and viewers at home cringing through their screens. This was not a man seeking genuine forgiveness. This was a man checking boxes and expecting applause for his effort. Kody started by expressing regret for how their breakup unfolded and for the anger he displayed during that painful period. Fair enough. But then he veered into territory that made everyone in the room deeply uncomfortable. He began reflecting on how much he used to love Christine, speaking about their marriage in flowery terms that seemed wildly inappropriate given that her new husband was sitting right beside her. He described their time together as poetic, comparing it to a storm and a sunset, calling it a beautiful life experience they shared. Christine shut that down immediately. She looked at him like he had lost his mind and asked why he thought any of that was appropriate. Her new husband was right there listening to her ex-husband wax poetic about their former romance. She pointedly asked where Robin was if he wanted to say things like that to her. The question hung in the air like an accusation because everyone watching understood exactly what Christine was implying. If Kody felt comfortable professing past love to his ex-wife, surely his current wife should be present for that conversation. But Kody seemed unbothered by the awkwardness he created. He pressed on with his prepared remarks, determined to get through his entire list regardless of how it landed. He wanted to apologize for saying he never loved Christine or his other ex-wives, acknowledging that he made those statements out of anger and that it was not cool. Again, Christine responded with visible discomfort, pointing out how weird it was to hear him say he used to love her while her husband sat inches away. The whole scene felt like watching someone completely miss the assignment. Christine had moved on. She found happiness with David. She built a new life in Utah surrounded by her children and grandchildren. The last thing she needed or wanted was Kody dredging up old feelings and making romantic declarations about their past. She made it abundantly clear that there was no lingering void in her heart waiting for Kody to fill. That chapter closed long before she ever met David. What viewers witnessed was the fundamental problem with Kody's entire approach to this apology tour. He designed it around what he wanted to say rather than what his ex-wives needed to hear. He came with a script focused on his feelings, his regrets, his desire to set people free. Never once did he stop to consider whether Christine actually wanted any of this or whether his words might create more discomfort than closure. And then David spoke up, and everything truly fell apart. David Woolley did something on this episode that nobody else has managed to do in 20 seasons of Sister Wives. He looked Kody Brown directly in the eyes and told him the truth about what actually matters. While Kody sat there patting himself on the back for apologizing to his ex-wives, David calmly pointed out that he was focusing on the wrong people entirely. The women have moved on, they have rebuilt their lives and found happiness beyond the wreckage of their plural marriage. But the children are still suffering, still waiting for a father who refuses to show up. David's delivery was measured and sincere. He asked permission before offering his advice, approaching the conversation with respect rather than hostility. He explained that as a father of 8 himself, he understood the challenges of maintaining relationships with children through difficult circumstances. He admitted that he and his own kids had butted heads over the years before eventually working things out. This was not some outsider lecturing Kody from a place of judgment. This was a fellow father sharing hard-earned wisdom about what it takes to repair broken bonds. The advice itself could not have been simpler or more direct. Start with your kids, show them that part, because your ex-wives have already healed and moved forward with their lives, but your children still need their father to step up. David sees those kids regularly now. He lives with Truly and spends time with Christine's other children during family gatherings. He witnesses firsthand the pain that Kody's absence creates, the confusion and hurt that lingers when a father chooses estrangement over effort. Kody's response revealed everything about his character. Rather than receiving this advice with gratitude or even quiet consideration, he immediately went on the defensive. He snapped that he did not care what David thought and that his only purpose for being there was apologizing to Christine. He declared that he had already set boundaries with his children and would now extend those same boundaries to David and Christine. Translation: stop talking about my kids because I have no intention of addressing that situation. In his confessional interview, Kody went even further. He admitted that being reminded of his estranged children would bring him back to an angry place, as if the very existence of his broken relationships was an inconvenience he preferred to ignore. He accused David of not understanding polygamy, dismissing his perspective entirely despite David having grown up adjacent to the lifestyle with family members who practice plural marriage. Fans watching at home erupted with praise for David's boldness. Comment sections across social media filled with viewers applauding him for being the first person to hold Kody accountable directly to his face. One fan noted that David has the right to speak up because he serves as the day-to-day father figure for Christine's children. Another pointed out that David is 100 times the father Kody will ever be. For once, someone said what needed saying, and Kody's reaction proved exactly why it needed to be said. Kody Brown loves to talk about boundaries. He throws the word around like a shield, deploying it whenever someone gets too close to holding him accountable for his failures. But the boundary he described during this episode has nothing to do with healthy relationship dynamics or protecting his mental health. This boundary exists for one purpose only: allowing Kody to avoid any conversation about why he has abandoned the vast majority of his 18 children. When David suggested starting with the kids, Kody immediately retreated behind his favorite defense mechanism. He announced that he had already set a boundary with his children and was now extending that same boundary to David and Christine. In Kody's mind, this declaration should have ended the discussion entirely. He drew a line and everyone else needed to respect it without question. But boundaries are supposed to protect people from genuine harm, not shield them from legitimate criticism about their parenting failures. The real problem with Kody's boundary argument is that it frames his estrangement from his children as something that happened to him rather than something he caused. Throughout this season and previous ones, he has consistently positioned himself as the victim of his ex-wives turning his kids against him. He blames Christine for how her children feel. He blames Janelle for the distance between him and her sons. He acts as though these adult children have no capacity for independent thought, as though they cannot observe his behavior with their own eyes and draw their own conclusions. But his children have been remarkably clear about what happened. Gabriel Brown explained that Kody demanded an apology from him without ever specifying what Gabriel had done wrong. When Gabriel asked his father to take accountability and show readiness for a real relationship, Kody responded by saying he forgave Gabriel and asking for forgiveness in return. Gabriel was left wondering what exactly he was supposed to apologize for. Leon Brown called their father a liar and a joke of a father on social media, revealing that Kody had not reached out since Garrison's funeral and had blatantly blown them off during that devastating day. The boundary Kody describes is actually just avoidance dressed up in therapy language. He learned the terminology somewhere along the way, probably from the same internet research that taught him to accuse David of triangulation. But using the right words does not mean understanding the concepts behind them. A genuine boundary would involve Kody saying he needs time to process his emotions before having difficult conversations. What Kody actually means is that nobody should ever mention his children because he has decided the estrangement is their fault and not his problem to fix. David saw right through this deflection. He pushed back because he understands what Christine's children need from their father. He watches them navigate the confusion and disappointment of having a dad who prioritizes his pride over his relationships. And when Kody declared his boundary, David knew it was nothing more than an excuse to keep running from the truth. While Kody was busy deflecting accountability in Las Vegas, Robin Brown was back in Flagstaff offering relationship advice to her adult daughter, Aurora. The scene seemed designed to showcase Robin as a nurturing mother figure, baking cookies with her 22-year-old and dispensing wisdom about love and independence. But one particular piece of advice had viewers spitting out their coffee and rushing to social media in disbelief. Robin looked at her daughter and said with complete sincerity that a man is not a financial plan. The irony was so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Here was Robin Brown, a woman who entered the Brown family carrying approximately $32,000 in credit card debt, lecturing her daughter about financial independence. Robin has never held a traditional job throughout her time on Sister Wives. Her primary occupation has been filming the show itself while serving as a stay-at-home mother with a stay-at-home husband. The family jewelry business she helped launch, My Sister Wife's Closet, failed spectacularly despite the built-in publicity from the television series. Fans immediately called out the hypocrisy flooding their screens. Comments poured in, questioning what exactly Robin's financial plan has been, if not relying on Kody and the income from their shared reality television career. When she married into the Brown family, Janelle's liquidated retirement funds reportedly helped pay off Robin's consumer debt. The other wives sacrificed their financial security to welcome Robin into the plural marriage, and now she sits in a $2.1 million home dispensing advice about not depending on men. The conversation with Aurora centered around her boyfriend Brody, who was reportedly graduating from basic training in the military. Robin expressed wanting her daughter to experience life on her own before settling down, which would have been touching advice from almost any other mother. But Robin has spent years ensuring her children remain close to home, purchasing an enormous house in Flagstaff that seemed designed to keep everyone under one roof indefinitely. Her actions have consistently contradicted any stated desire for her kids to spread their wings. What made this scene particularly frustrating was the lack of self-awareness on display. Robin speaks as though she built her life through independent hustle and smart financial planning rather than attaching herself to a man with 3 other wives and a television contract. She benefited enormously from the sacrifices made by Mary, Janelle, and Christine during the early years of the family's journey. Those women worked jobs, contributed income, and built the foundation that allowed the Brown family to survive and eventually thrive on camera. Robin telling Aurora that a man is not a financial plan might be solid advice in isolation. Young women absolutely should develop their own careers and financial independence before committing to partnerships. But hearing those words from Robin Brown felt like watching someone who has never run a marathon lecture others on proper sprinting technique. The messenger completely undermined the message, and fans were not about to let that contradiction slide without comment. David Woolley's advice to start with the kids struck such a nerve because everyone watching knows the devastating truth about Kody's relationships with his children. This is not a situation where a father and 1 or 2 teenagers have temporary disagreements. This is a catastrophic breakdown affecting nearly all 18 of his offspring. Janelle herself has stated publicly that Kody is alienated from 90 to 95% of his children. Let that number sink in for a moment. A man who built his entire brand around family values has lost connection with almost every child he brought into this world. The receipts keep piling up from the children themselves. Leon Brown took to Instagram stories in November to blast their father for lying about reaching out to his kids. They called the claims ridiculous and revealed that Kody had not contacted them since Garrison's funeral in March of the previous year. Even more damning, Leon stated that Kody blatantly blew them off at their own brother's funeral. They called him a liar and a joke of a father, holding nothing back about the pain his absence has caused. Gabriel Brown shared his own heartbreaking experience attempting to reconcile with Kody. He explained that his father kept demanding an apology without ever specifying what Gabriel had supposedly done wrong. When Gabriel finally told Kody he would not engage further unless his father showed genuine readiness to fix things, Kody responded with a bizarre text claiming he forgave Gabriel and asking for reciprocal forgiveness. Gabriel was left completely confused about what he was being forgiven for and what crime he had committed that required absolution. Madison Brush, one of Janelle's daughters, has not spoken to her father in 2 to 3 years, according to her mother. Janelle revealed that Maddie saw no point in keeping Kody informed about major life events because he had shown zero interest in being present. He had not visited since she had her first child years earlier, so why would she bother telling him about subsequent pregnancies or milestones? Peyton Brown confirmed he has not spoken to Kody since Garrison's funeral, adding that something happened during that service that made their already strained relationship even worse. He declined to share specifics but acknowledged that events unfolded in ways he had not hoped for. Multiple Brown children have alluded to drama occurring at Garrison's funeral involving Kody and Robin, though none have publicly detailed exactly what transpired. The pattern is unmistakable. Child after child has described a father who demands loyalty without offering accountability, who expects apologies without acknowledging his own failures, who sets boundaries that conveniently excuse him from doing any actual work to repair these relationships. Kody can dismiss David Woolley's advice all he wants. He can claim that triangulation and outside influence turned his children against him. But when this many kids from different mothers share similar stories of abandonment and disappointment, the common denominator becomes impossible to ignore. The morning after that disastrous dinner conversation, Christine had a plan to salvage something meaningful from this awkward reunion. She suggested they all head to Speed Vegas, a racing venue where they could drive high-performance cars around a professional track. The idea was simple but intentional. Rather than sitting across from each other rehashing old wounds, maybe doing something fun together could demonstrate that coexistence was actually possible. Christine wanted her children to see that spending time with their father did not have to be painful. Her reasoning made sense from a mother's perspective. She explained that when she returned home, she wanted to tell her kids it was awesome hanging out with their dad. They needed to see that interacting with Kody could be completely fine, even enjoyable. Christine understood that her children would never rebuild relationships with their father if every encounter remained mired in tension and uncomfortable confrontations. Sometimes you have to model the behavior you hope others will eventually adopt. But even during what should have been a light-hearted activity, Kody could not resist being himself. As Christine took her turn on the track, he watched with critical commentary rather than encouragement. He picked apart her performance, noting spots she missed and techniques she failed to execute properly. The man cannot seem to experience any moment without positioning himself as superior to those around him. Even go-kart racing becomes a competition he must win and others must lose. When everyone completed their runs, Kody did emerge as the fastest driver. He beat Christine by roughly half a second, a margin so slim it barely mattered. Yet you could see the satisfaction on his face, the validation he drew from outperforming his ex-wife at an activity that meant absolutely nothing in the larger context of their lives. This is who Kody is at his core. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to prove his dominance rather than simply connecting with the people around him. Christine tried to frame the experience positively despite the underlying awkwardness. She expressed openness to future group activities and even mentioned the possibility of more hangouts down the road. Part of this willingness surely stems from practical considerations about keeping the show going. Sister Wives needs content, and estranged family members who refuse to interact make for limited storytelling options. But Christine also genuinely seems to want peace for the sake of her children. The racing excursion ended without major incident, which in the context of this family counts as a victory. Nobody stormed off, nobody screamed or cried or accused anyone else of ruining their life. They drove fast cars, exchanged surface-level pleasantries, and went their separate ways. But the fundamental issues remained completely unaddressed. Kody still refused to discuss his children. Christine still harbored deep skepticism about his intentions. And David still knew that everything he said at dinner was absolutely correct, regardless of how Kody reacted to hearing it. While the drama unfolded in Las Vegas, another significant storyline was developing across the country. Janelle Brown reached out to Mary through a video call to discuss something that had been weighing on her mind. She wanted guidance on obtaining a spiritual divorce from Kody through the AUB Church, the Apostolic United Brethren community where their plural marriage marriage had been sealed. Even though their legal separation was already complete, Janelle felt compelled to formally close this chapter in the eyes of the faith she still holds. The request made perfect sense, given Janelle's spiritual beliefs. She explained that she had no interest in remarrying, so this was not about freeing herself for another relationship. This was about closure on a fundamental level. Janelle still believes in the eternal nature of the covenants she made, and the idea of remaining spiritually bound to Kody in any afterlife scenario clearly troubled her. Mary had previously joked about this exact fear, wondering aloud what would happen if everything they believed turned out to be true and she woke up after death still married to that man. Mary had already completed her own spiritual release from Kody, and her experience provided valuable insight for Janelle. She explained that the process had moved surprisingly quickly in her case. The AUB leadership apparently wanted to conduct extensive examination of the situation, but when they reached out to Kody and he showed no interest in engaging, they simply granted Mary her release without further delay. Sources close to the situation suggest the church leadership had witnessed enough of Kody's behavior on television to make their decision easy. What struck viewers about this conversation was the unexpected dynamic between Mary and Janelle. These two women spent decades in a complicated relationship, often portrayed as the least compatible of the sister wives. Yet here was Mary offering genuine support and even volunteering to accompany Janelle when she approached the church leadership. She recognized that Janelle felt intimidated by the prospect of facing the AB authorities alone and extended an olive branch of solidarity. Janelle acknowledged feeling nervous about the whole process despite being a confident businesswoman in other areas of her life. Something about approaching those religious leaders triggered old anxieties, the kind that form when you spend 30 years in a hierarchical faith structure. Mary understood completely and assured Janelle that she would be there if needed. The irony was not lost on longtime viewers. Kody has essentially been cast out by everyone, including the religious community that once validated his lifestyle. When Mary sought her release, the church did not hesitate. When Janelle sends her request, the expectation is similar swift action. The man who once positioned himself as the spiritual head of a large plural family now finds that even his church has seen enough to side with the women he mistreated. Janelle ended the call by texting the AUB leadership directly, finally taking concrete action toward the freedom she deserves. Mary watched with quiet satisfaction as another sister wife moved toward complete liberation. After the Las Vegas meetings concluded, Kody sat down with his friend Brian to decompress and share his version of events. Brian is the same friend whose wedding Kody officiated years earlier, famously choosing to attend that ceremony while his daughter Isabel underwent life-threatening spinal surgery across the country. Their conversation revealed the ugly truth behind Kody's entire apology tour, exposing it as little more than a performance designed to check boxes rather than genuinely repair relationships. Kody told Brian flat out that he would never trust his ex-wives again. He made it crystal clear that despite all the talk of olive branches and benevolence, he had zero interest in actually being friends with Mary, Janelle, or Christine. The apologies were just words, gestures meant to satisfy some internal need for closure without requiring any real change or ongoing effort. He delivered his scripted lines, endured their responses, and walked away with no intention of building anything meaningful from the experience. The conversation took an even more revealing turn when Brian asked how Robyn fit into all of this reconciliation talk. Kody's answer explained everything about why genuine healing remains impossible for this fractured family. He essentially admitted that his ex-wives and children do not acknowledge Robyn's existence, and since he refuses to exist separately from Robyn, there is no path forward. He and Robyn are a package deal. If his kids and exes cannot accept her fully, then they cannot have access to him either. This admission landed like a bombshell for fans who have long suspected Robyn's central role in the family's destruction. Kody openly confirmed what everyone already knew. He chose Robyn over his other wives. He chose Robyn over his children. And now he hides behind that choice as an excuse for why reconciliation cannot happen, placing the blame on everyone else for refusing to embrace the woman who benefited most from their suffering. Brian pushed back gently, pointing out that Mary would eventually discover Kody's claims about Janelle allegedly trying to sell Coyote Pass out from under her. Kody's story about the property situation had already started shifting throughout the episode, softening from accusations of betrayal to vague descriptions of Janelle simply wanting to expedite the sale. When Brian noted that cameras captured everything, Kody dismissively said Mary would have to hear it from Janelle because he was not going to tell her. The casual cruelty of that statement was remarkable. Kody had just met with these women supposedly to make amends, yet he was already scheming about information he would withhold and blame he would redirect. This was not a changed man seeking genuine reconciliation. This was the same manipulative figure fans have watched for 2 decades, now simply better versed in the language of therapy and accountability while practicing neither. His friend Brian sat listening, perhaps recognizing that whatever advice he might offer would fall on ears as deaf as those that rejected David Woolley's wisdom just hours earlier. The preview for the upcoming episode promises exactly what fans have been waiting for. Mary Brown finally gets her turn facing Kody, and based on the footage shown, she has no intention of letting him control the narrative. Her declaration echoed through the teaser like a battle cry. "You are not going to shut me down anymore." After years of being dismissed, ignored, and treated as an afterthought in her own marriage, Mary appears ready to unleash decades of suppressed frustration directly at the man who made her feel invisible. Mary's friends Jen and Amber already expressed serious concerns about her agreeing to meet Kody at all. Jen questioned why Mary would even entertain this conversation given everything he has put her through. When Mary explained that Kody wanted to extend an olive branch of benevolence, Jen immediately called out the absurdity. This was the same man who called them vulgar names and showed nothing but contempt during the Coyote Pass sale. Benevolence and profanity do not belong in the same sentence. But Mary insisted she was curious about what Kody actually wanted to say. She acknowledged going into the meeting guarded and skeptical, recognizing that his energy tends to mess with hers in ways that take time to recover from. She wondered openly whether he had ulterior motives, whether this whole apology tour was designed to accomplish something beyond simple reconciliation. Given what viewers heard Kody tell Brian about never trusting his exes again, Mary's suspicions appear completely justified. Fan reaction to this entire episode has been overwhelmingly supportive of David Woolley and critical of Kody's deflections. Social media erupted with praise for David being the first person to confront Kody directly about his failures as a father. Comments noted that David has earned the right to speak because he actually shows up for these children in ways Kody refuses to do. He sees their pain, he witnesses the confusion and disappointment that Kody's absence creates, and he had the courage to say something about it rather than politely nodding along with empty apologies. The consensus among viewers is that Kody's apology tour has accomplished nothing except revealing how little he has actually changed. He still blames everyone else for his problems. He still refuses to take accountability for the estrangement from his children. He still prioritizes Robin above all other relationships and uses that priority as a shield against criticism. The words he speaks sound like growth, but his actions tell a completely different story. As this season continues, one question looms larger than any other. Will Kody ever genuinely reckon with the damage he has caused, or will he keep performing contrition while privately dismissing everyone who challenges him? Based on everything viewers witnessed this episode, the answer seems painfully clear. The apology tour is just another chapter in Kody Brown's ongoing story of refusing to look in the mirror. Drop your thoughts below on whether you think Kody will ever truly change. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video is waiting and you will not want to miss what comes next.